Hello, everyone. How are you this evening? It's Amy from Seriously Sweet. Say hello as you pop on with us, please. You can just put your name over in the comment field and say hi. I'm going to leave this up for the beginning of the video for just a minute. If you'd like to get text alerts, text 540-870-0726. Put that number in just as if you were adding a new person to your phone, and then type the word live stream and send it, and then you should start getting alerts unless you have some kind of blocker on your telephone. All right, and Teresa, if you jump on here, you probably got the StreamYard and alert for Facebook and YouTube. If you are on here, we are still working on yours, so we will see what we can make happen with that. Hello, Miss Jennifer. How are you this evening? Could you do me a favor, Jennifer? Could you find the link to our new cookie group called all three platforms up? Oh, good. Thank you for checking them all. Okay, so let me say hello real quick to Miss Jennifer. Christy is here. Hey, Sammy. You and your mom okay? I'm so jealous of Samantha and Teresa. They got to go to Florida on a vacay. Hello there. Hi, Maria. Let's see. Oh, Sheila from Michigan Cookies and More. Cool. It's good to have you with us tonight. Hi, Julie. Okay, so let's see. Hey, Sue, how are you? Jennifer, I had a request. Could you please put a link to Cookie Snack Attack with Seriously Sweet to that Facebook group? I will check it in a little bit. We were not, I would really like us to get to 300 people. No, sorry, to 400 people, right? Isn't that what we're shooting for, guys? 400, so I can give away another free virtual class. So if you would put a link up there, someone has messaged me and said they're having trouble finding the group. So if you wouldn't mind, if you go into the group and just grab a copy, I would love it. Yep, because we're at 335 right now. Everybody that has requested has been admitted, so everybody's all good. Now you might have to let your phones update because I just admitted like 3 people that sent requests just as soon as I went online. Well, we're going to go to 400, Karen, and then we're going to do a drawing, and there'll be another drawing at 500, but it might be for something a little bit different when we get to that point. All right, let me go ahead and take this off. We're at 335 right now, and let's see. There we go. One day I'm going to have my very own dedicated tech person called AKA Teenager. Just kidding. I'll have to borrow someone else's because I don't have one of those. Hey, Karen, how are you doing? All right, I'm going to flip another light. Woo, sorry, guys. I hope I did not just make you all seasick. All right, I'm going to flip another light on so that you get the full effect of the diamond dust. I got diamond dust rolling tonight, so I really want you to see that. All right, well, we're going to do a couple of toadstools, and then I'm going to show you just a little bit about how to do the wings on a fairy that I have a class for. It's a pre-recorded class. I taught it live earlier in the year. Now you can purchase it. Jen, did you get the link up? Okay, perfect. I think you put it up. I just can't see it. So earlier in the year, I taught a live class where I taught Bella Fairy. She was the companion piece to the gnome home that I created for Nancy Westfall's group during Cookie-a-thon. So gnome home is up there, and Bella Fairy was a separate class I taught. So now just all the recordings are up there. Let's see. In a minute, I'll tell you, I might have to go back and look these up because they're from a couple places. But if anything looks unusual in the cutters, like something that's not like the metal ones that are on the market or somebody else's, then it's probably from Dots and Bows. So if anybody's on here that can grab Katrina's website, she sells cookie cutters, Katrina from Dots and Bows, and I have tons of cutters from Katrina. She's so sweet. She makes custom cutters for me when I'm doing classes. There's a specialty section on her website where she has the Seriously Sweet cutters, any of the cutters that go with classes or tutorials I've taught in any of the events or privately for myself. All those are listed in there, and they're all still in there. I have a new project coming up soon. You guys are going to want to see that. Thank you, Jennifer. Hi, Becky. Hi, Tricia. How are you guys doing tonight? So we're going to start off on our toadstool first. Also, I want to make sure that I say in this video, when I am decorating for customers and marking cookies, because I do like to sketch on my cookies so that I don't go along and then forget what I'm doing. I generally sketch on my cookies for cookies that are for customers in a yellow edible ink marker, right? Tonight I'm using this. Let me get one that still has the writing on it. I'm using this. And these are all linked in the supply list that are on my coffee site. So I'll pop that link up. I don't have any of the templates or anything in here for you because I'm just jumping on to decorate, do a snack size tutorial, and do a few cookies for you. But if you are familiar with our artist site, it's coffee, ko-fi.com/seriously sweet. It's an artist support site where you can just buy me a sweet tea and make a donation, or there's supply lists and royal icing transfer templates, different things in my shop for sale. So you are welcome to visit that anytime you want to. It's helping me to continue to improve my equipment and keep live streaming. What we're going to do tonight is just have a quick snack size tutorial, and it's mainly going to be done with brush embroidery, and then another trick to give a lift so that we can have some cleavage on our fairy. Okay, so I'm going to show you how I do that. Earlier I was on and quickly showed you guys how to, we talked about coloring some white fondant using non-metallic gold food gel, so that you have a nice base coat for underneath using metallics if you're painting. And I just showed you how I quickly painted some embellishment pieces that I'm going to be using over the next few weeks. So let's get to work on our toadstool. If anybody has questions over there, there's a couple of you on here that generally come on when I live stream. If you could try to answer those questions, because it's brush embroidery, so I'll be looking down at the cookie a good bit. And so if there's something on there, just flash the question up for me again, okay? But it's really good to see everybody again. I'm Amy from Seriously Sweet on Davis Street. Please make sure that you go back and watch the beginning of the video and sign up for text alerts. And then I would love it if you would join our new group, Cookie Snack Attack with Seriously Sweet. It's on Facebook. Everything on it's free. It's a community where we can all contribute and help each other's skills grow. I would just ask that you read the group rules when you join the group, because I want to make sure everything stays very positive. I am currently super busy because I am revamping several things within my business so that I can continue to live stream and live stream more often and teach more online virtual classes and participate in more shows. So it's important that I just keep everything positive so that we don't have a lot of things to take care of on that site, okay? Please post pictures when you have cool techniques you want to share. I want everyone to go look at Miss Barbie's cookies. She did the Take to the Skies. She did a duplication of the Take to the Skies with her own twist on it from the I always get these initials wrong, so let me just take a second. Frosting Creators of San Antonio Virtual Day of Sharing. So if anybody's on here that's a member of that group, or Melinda, if you're on here, if you would like to drop a link in, no shaming, no blaming, no fussing, no cussing. Well, that's a very good start. But really, I want you to be super encouraging to each other. There's a lot of beginners that follow me, and I would really love for you guys to encourage them to stick with it and just help when you can. Share your experiences. There's a great thread going on there right now where people are talking. There's two threads actually that I'm really liking the interaction on. One of them is a single best piece of advice you would give to a new cookier, knowing what you know now. And the second one is how many cookies were in your first cookie order and what it was. So please feel free to join in on both of those. We can keep those chats going. Lavelle, the name of the new group is Cookie Snack Attack with Seriously Sweet. That's the actual name of the group. So if anybody's on here, you might have to invite some people. So if you're friends with someone that's on here, they might have to invite you, okay? I changed it from public status to private status so that it's only people in the group that can see all the conversations. Yes, Jennifer, thank you for that link. I'm so excited because I'm going to be doing something this summer with the Frosting Creators of San Antonio again. Hopefully, I'm going to be doing something. We haven't confirmed a date yet, but I'm hoping to do something for Nancy's group this summer. I have two really cool projects planned for that. There is a third thing in the works for later in the summer, but I can't tell you yet, or maybe it's fall. I'm not sure. For sure, something later in the fall with Cookie-a-thon, but possibly something before that. So anyway, let's get started on this. Otherwise, I'll be filling you in on all the really good stuff that's been happening lately, and we'll be on here all night. And this is just meant to be a snack-sized tutorial, okay? So I'm going to feature tonight what I really want you to catch on to is all the cool things you can do with brush embroidery. So I am using what I would consider to be a 25 to 30-second icing. I generally call this toothpaste icing. Toothpaste icing, of course, there's many different kinds of toothpaste, gel, there's paste, all of that sort of stuff. So when I am talking to you, when you follow me and I'm talking to you about toothpaste consistency, I'm talking about like just a plain Colgate toothpaste where it's a matte finish. It's not shiny at all. It's thick. If I don't do anything to this, it'll sit just like this and not move, but it's not so thick that it'll bust my hand. So I used my black marker because it shows up better on camera. But if I was doing this for a customer, I would normally use yellow. And that's just so it's a little more hidden. Off to the side here, I have a little tray. It's just a disposable tray from the Dollar Tree, a little bit of water in here. I'm using the round tip Wilton brush. Let me pull that down. Can you see that? It's the rounded one. It's stiff bristles. I like this one for doing this type of brush embroidery work. I dipped it in the water and then I just pat it on my paper towel. I want to almost mold this royal icing. I want to sculpt it almost. I don't want to add so much water that it causes everything to disintegrate. I want to get some nice definition in these lines. Can you see what's happening? This is great. And of course, I'm going somewhere with this. I like to have the texture on the other underside of the mushroom. I just think toadstools can be super plain and you can knock them out really fast if you need to do a bunch. But I think it's fun if you have the time to put this little bit of extra effort in and rough it up under here, because it's just another little extra step on your cookie that has people guessing like, how'd you do that, right? It's fun when people that don't cookie look at your cookies and they're first of all, they say they're too pretty to eat, or they say, how did you do that? And I just want you to know that some of those things that look super complicated, they just take practice. They're not out of your wheelhouse. You guys, even if you're new, you totally could do it. Now watch what I'm about to do here. I'm going to try to get up in the light there for you. I've pulled this icing and I've just basically, I haven't dipped my brush again, so my brush is dry. So do you see that the icing gave back itself a little bit of moisture as soon as I cracked that initial round of the crust? So I'm not technically sculpting here because it's not set up enough that I'm molding it like I would clay, but it's pliable enough that I can get some good marks as I'm dragging my brush through. I have not had to go back and reintroduce any water to this. And so what I'm doing is just starting along the edge. Let me lift this up so you can see. You see how I haven't broken the edge? I have a nice bead up there. And then what I'm doing is going up to it, but not on the other side of it, right? I'm not up here and pulling down. I'm starting here and pulling down so that I have that nice smooth edge across the top, which really, it just looks very natural. It's very pretty. Then what I'm going to do, I'm going to be putting in the same color, but in a flood consistency icing. I'm going to fill this in, the stem of the mushroom. So I'm just going to take my brush and I'm going to work a little bit of that extra off because we just don't need it. So I'm just bringing this part to where it's flat on the cookie. We don't want to leave up, it's nice to have the texture and the dimension and to make it super fancy. What we don't want to do is have so many little nooks and crannies sticking up. Can you see that? See the dimension on that right there? We don't want to have that bust off in the bag. You're watching this on a train commute from Seattle. That's so cool. Oh, that is so cool. Thank you for doing that, Charlotte, and spending time with us tonight. And Julie, you are totally correct. It is very fun to do these. So let me show you how quick that you come right back in. I just have my paper towel purging the tip of the bag here. And I'm going to come right up along this edge and immediately introduce this flood outline consistency, which if you're a counter and that works for you, it's fine. For me at this point, it's really about the feel and what the shine is on the icing. So what it feels like in my hand and how much shine it has tells me how much liquid. I don't really count it, but if I were counting, which is how I initially learned to do icing, and that did help because that got me to the point where then I could tell what it felt like when I was mixing it. But this would be like an 18-second, maybe a 16-second, because you can see how quickly it's leveling out, it's self-healing. So what I've done is used a much thicker consistency here. It's from the exact same batch of icing, but what I just put on is flood outline. I'm not doing anything to that, and you can see there's no air bubbles. This was made yesterday and allowed to set up overnight, and you can see right there, it's smooth already. It's already beautiful, right? So we're going to move this one to the side for you. Thank you to everyone that's watching live. If you would take a minute and drop me a comment over on the right-hand side and just let me know if you've joined our new group yet or not, or if you like the text messages. Yes, definitely rewatch it. I'm going to keep it in small bite-sized bits, so that'll work. I did also want to show you earlier tonight when we did the video. Oh, I'm so glad. I almost knocked that whole tray of little embellishments in the floor a minute ago. So earlier tonight when I came on, there's another video up for today where I showed you just using some TMP gold on some embellishments. So earlier I showed you 2 little mushrooms. So this is what I'm doing with those mushrooms. Isn't that cute? You see all the detail on that and how pretty it is with the gold? Oh, yeah. Okay, so we did that mushroom. And then we also did this shape mushroom. And we're going to go ahead and take one of each of these. Now, also on this one, I just added a little flower that I did earlier down at the bottom just to make it, you know, a little pretty. It's going with the tea party set. And this one is plain. But let's talk about what I just did. And let's look at these next to each other. So do you see this one? This is the one we just did on camera together, the whole thing. This is one I did earlier. Can you see the difference in the one on the right and the one on the left? One has the diamond dust and one has not been dusted yet. Isn't that cute? But you can see that shimmer, right? So let's go ahead and put some diamond dust on this because I'm just doing a couple of these. I want them all to be the same when they get photographed. So this is just white diamond dust by the Sugar Art. Good, you like that one? All right, so what we're going to do is pick our colors. And let's do, I'm going to do, stay in the same colors as what we're going to be doing for the fairies we're going to do later. So I'm going to pick out 2 colors from that grouping of colors that I posted earlier today. That's on our store Facebook page if you want to check it out. And what we are going to do right now are we're going to use these 2 colors. I don't know if it's really, let me see what the best way, let me come up to the camera. So this is Mauve by Americolor. Mauve and Avocado is what I'm using right here. It's maybe, there we go. That's good right there. So on the right is the Mauve, on the left is Avocado. They have this beautiful look to them. Both of these colors are just kind of frosted looking. Hey, Nadine, how are you? Okay, so let's talk about this before we start though. You guys know I love royal icing transfers templates. And the reason I do is because, especially with new cookiers, sometimes it's going to help you to get really detailed little bits that you can run through a dehydrator or put underneath a fan so that they don't crater, because people tend to have trouble with icing consistency when they first start. And if you have trouble with icing consistency, your icing has probably a little more liquid in it than what it actually needs to have. So when you start trying to use an icing that is too thin to make little bits and pieces to add to your cookies, or you're trying to make something that stands up on your cookie and the cookie's too thin, well, then you get super frustrated that you've baked the cookie, you've spent all that time getting it cut out perfectly and baked, and then you go to put icing and you get down to the last little details, which should make it really pop, and then you get really frustrated. So one of the things that will help you, especially if you're newer, is learning to work with royal icing transfer templates. Now, I just made these earlier, seriously, maybe 30 minutes ago. I used my thick consistency icing, which is that 30 to 35 second that has that dull look to it, very thick, like toothpaste with no gel in it, like that. And I just made different sizes of these circles. Now, don't look up here. This is for when we do our fairy lift surgery for her chest area. That's not what we're looking at right now. Down here are just different little sizes of the nubs that we're going to drop with a pair of tweezers. I just have a basic pair of tweezers, craft tweezers that I have never used for anything except cooking. We're going to use these and we're going to drop it onto our little toadstools for just a little bit more dimension. But because I took the time to make these ahead of time, you can see that none of them crater, so they're perfect. Okay, that's good. We don't want craters in these. We want them to be nice, round, and puffy. I know you like the fairy lift. Well, the fairy needs a lift because the very first one I made, I didn't give her a lift and she needed a lift. So a lift was created. So anyway, if you take the time to make those transfers, you know, you can do them well ahead of time and just have them stored. So that's not something you have to be fussing with. It shouldn't be the last detail. The details on the cookies that you can make ahead of time on royal icing transfer templates or using the little fondant embellishments to make it a multimedia cookie. Those little things that tend to make the cookies extra special, like painting with the TMP gold, that sort of stuff, that can all be done ahead of time. It really should be done as the first thing once you've designed your cookie, not the last thing, okay? And they are pretty easy to do. Even Jennifer's jumping on here saying she loves them too. They are easy to do. The other reason that I always encourage you guys, especially if you're new or relatively new, to do them is because they will force you to get your icing consistency. It's like a double thing, right? It's not just getting a cool royal icing transfer template, but by trying to do templates, it forces you to learn your icing consistency. So it's something fun, something small, something that won't ruin your cookie, right? Because you're not doing it right on the cookie as the last detail after everything else is perfect, but it forces you to work with your consistency, and half the game is the consistency. So let's go ahead. How about starting with our mauve? Do you like this mauve? This is by Americolor. Nadine, if you are still on here, can you say, just put a comment over there for me if you're still on? Yes, I guess that is what we're doing. But we're just going to give her a little underwire for her area. So Nadine, if you're on here, leave me a comment. I was wondering if you could go over to Amazon and find the Americolor kit for the 50 or the 90 or the 70, something that you might want to consider investing in if you're not terribly great with mixing colors when you first get started. Instead of buying a whole bunch of different colors from a whole bunch of different places, the Americolor, I think it's called Nifty 50, then there's one that's 90. Am I in frame? Let me get up a little higher here. Those are a great kit. Your colors are already pre-mixed for you. So they seem expensive, but actually they're not if you break down the cost price per piece. I would recommend getting something like that if you're getting started. And you don't have to get the 90 or the 70 or the 50. They have smaller kits, but if you're doing your cookie as your side hustle or starting to do a lot more for your family and friends in church, you just may want to think about getting that. The other reason it's handy for new cookiers to get already mixed colors is because it's one less thing you have to learn right out of the gate when you start to cookie. And what's helpful about that is if you get, a lot of us, I'm sure, can put this over in the comment area. You can, please feel free to comment right here. Nadine, if you can find that link and drop it in, or Jennifer, if you can find it, drop them. Hey, Tiffany, how are the kiddos? I cannot wait to meet the new baby. Sorry, guys, that is adopted family that jumped on. Sometimes your family's not your biological family, right? That's a good friend of the family there. So what was I telling you? Oh, the reason it's good to get those kits. How many of you can comment over in the comment field right now about being down to the last cookie in a cookie job, and all of a sudden you just are, they need to all match. They have to be exactly the same. And then you run out of the icing to do the very last cookie, right? And then you're trying to get back to that same color. Well, for some of us, it's really hard to do because we make kitchen sink icing, right? Like one color goes into the next color, goes into the next color, goes into the next color. And so, it can be difficult. So it is nice to have something like that where you then all you're dealing with when you're trying to make more icing is just getting to the right shade. So you know you used the Americolor mauve to make this cookie. If I needed to make another one, then I would just start with a very small amount of color and keep mixing a little more in, a little more in, a little more in. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's one more thing that you can eliminate from freaking out about, oh, look what I just did. Okay, let me show you what you do. We're just going to take this off. I just squeezed it a little too hard. This is why you need to do these a day ahead of time. It was a big transfer, and it was still a little too soft. So no big deal. We're going to drop another piece right there. But that's how, if I needed to, you guys, I could just scrape all of that off and start over. So what I'm going to do this time is just be a little more careful, and I'm going to grab it from the sides. And I'm going to start with it already the way that I want it on the cookie. So there's not a lot of manipulation that needs to go on. I just need to play operation with it for a minute. How many of you guys did that game as a kid? Get it on the cookie. Can you see that the cookie is pulling it down? Because can you see what's happening? Because the cookie icing is that outline flood consistency, the royal icing piece. The other thing this is going to help you with is color bleed by doing these separate like this. And if this was totally dry, I would have just put a smidge of icing on the back and attached it to the dry top. But because this is a lighter color, you can see it attaches it so it acts like a glue, but it's not going to bleed into it. It's just something about these little transfers. They're handy. I like to work in threes on these cookies if it's possible and there's enough room. So I'm going to go for 2 small little bits. If you need to, guys, just tap this. Just barely tap it. You can see the icing below because it's wet. It's pulling that right down to it, so no worries. I think we should come over here and drop our third one. How's that? So let's lift this up so you guys can take a look. How sweet is that? And so you can see what we did on the cookie. This is meant to look like the back of the cookie, and then the rest of that color would run behind the stem. And then we have this fancy little gold embellishment. Now, only the small one came up. Yes, if you do buy directly from them, it is a little cheaper. And if you're on Amazon, depending on where you are, if you're a Prime member, work out what the actual cost is with and without shipping, because a lot of the companies, when you order direct from them, if you hit a certain dollar amount, you get free shipping. So you should always investigate those things before you order and try to batch your orders for any product. But look how cute. This is so sweet, right? So pretty. Wouldn't a whole tray of these be great in red, white, and blue for 4th of July? It would be such a pretty thing to create. Now, I don't know if you can hear it, but behind me, I have my dehydrator going. It's a little Sasori model. I love it. And I'm just going to pop that in there. It's down on 100 degrees is what I keep mine on. The fan blows from the back across the cookies, so I don't have to worry about it cooking the cookies, so to speak, from underneath. So I just leave them in there about 10 minutes, get a crust, because I don't want that thinner icing that I just used on the top of the toadstool. I don't want it to crater. So we're going to switch and do a green one. And this is Avocado by Americolor. Also, somebody was mentioning that they really like, Jen. So someone was mentioning that they like the Chef Master. I like the Chef Master colors very much. When I first started, I bought that set from Americolor that had it all in there, and it helped me so much when I was getting started. Now, I'm sure everybody knows how to cut a bag that's on here tonight, but when you cut a bag, these are tipless bags, so it's got one seam in the bag. I usually face it up towards the ceiling. I flatten it, and then I cut across this way. Is it necessary? No. Do I recommend it? Yes. Why? Because hey, Jeremy, how are you? I'm recommending it because the seam just seems to keep the bag just a smidge. I mean, not even a millimeter thicker in that area. So when you cut with the seam towards the ceiling, flatten it, and then cut, then you're more apt to get more of a circle versus an oval at the end, okay? 10 minutes is fabulous. We'll take you for as long as you can join us tonight. So you and Jennifer can communicate over there in the comments. My dehydrator, and it is linked on Amazon for me. It's the Sasori. It's spelled C-O-S-O-R-I. SORI. And I love it. It has a timer on it, and it's got the temperature control. It has 6 shelves. I also bought the paper that I could cut down to line it so that no crumbs from the tray above would fall on the tray below, because I tend to fill up all 6 trays like within a matter of minutes when I'm going. So anyway, let's move on to this one. Let's get some green. This cutter, I think this cutter, if anybody's on here that can actually check for me, this particular cutter that I'm working on, I feel like this is a Dots and Bows. If not this one, then definitely the little round one, the rounded top one. But aren't these so cute? These look like little pointy hats. I see so many things. What do you guys see when you see this shape? This could be an arrow. Put some things over there in the comments. Oh, also, you fill, outline and flood however you are comfortable. But as you saw what I just did, and I have the bag tilted because I'm trying to let you see what I'm doing, I push the icing with pressure towards that rounded edge. I'm not actually putting a line right there. I put some base underneath and then I push it towards it. First of all, because I want it to look a little bit, I want to have a little dimension, I guess, maybe a little different flow with it. It's a mushroom. It doesn't have to be perfect. But the other reason I do that is so that I don't have to pick up my scribe. If I'm doing a lot of these cookies really fast, I want to, for profitability reasons, touch my scribe the least amount of time possible. So this is something we all struggle with, right? We want to make these outstanding, gorgeous cookies. We want everybody to be wowed, but then we can't spend 15 minutes on each cookie. So we need cookies that look like we spent tons of time, but we don't want to have to do what I'm doing right now on every cookie. And I'm just doing this. I don't need to because my icing is perfect tonight, but I'm doing it to show you how long you could actually sit and futz, technical baking word there, how long you could sit and futz with the cookie if you wanted to, when it really isn't necessary. So with a little planning for something cool like this gold mushroom that we added down at the bottom, you know how the mushrooms have those little bits that split off? The pointy one isn't Dots and Bows. If someone knows where this pointy one came from, drop that in there. It might have been a metal one, but I kind of feel like it might have even been Bobby's. I feel like I used a purple cutter when I did this. Yes, this could totally, you know what? Now that you've said that, Cynthia, where you said gnome hat, you totally could Franken cookie this, take the stem off, and then add this to, and you could add this to so many things. So yes, for sure. And it also, if you cut it off, this would be a really cute cookie for the top of a cupcake as well. Okay, so what I'm doing here, did you see on the last cookie we went all the way under, but on this one we didn't? I'm just giving a different perspective to the outline of the mushroom there. No real reason. I just decided it looked good like that, so that's how I did it when I did the brush embroidery. Now, I like to work in odd numbers. It's something that I picked up as a kid from doing gardening, planting. You're usually working in a triangle shape or in odd numbers. So I'm going to be picking 3, and I'm getting 3 different sizes. This is a particular time where OCD or anything does not kick in for me. So look how cute. We made these ahead of time. So you see how fast that cookie could be if I didn't stop to pick up that scribe. You can see that the icing's perfect and those little bits are sinking down in there. Now, let me give you a quick pointer, okay? I prefer to use modeling chocolate for these little bits just because I like it. I like how it tastes. I prefer it over fondant. But really, you guys, this is such a small amount of fondant that if someone is tasting that, it's not going to bother them. Or it's so small they could flick it off, throw it out. It wouldn't matter. So it's not like we coated the whole cookie or something like that, okay? By the way, if you do that, I recommend marshmallow fondant. Homemade marshmallow fondant is very tasty. So these pieces, though, I made them out of fondant for tonight. First of all, because it's summertime. It's over 90 degrees where I am already, and these are going to be outdoors for a while. So I absolutely can't send anything to my customer that's going to melt. And we also know that it's not going to just one person, it's for an event. So when it goes to that event, there's going to be a lot of people there, right? So you just have to take those things into consideration. And I have popped that one into the dehydrator. So how about this? That probably took us, what do you think, 3 minutes? Let me pull out the one that's been in here for just 3 minutes. 3-4 minutes maybe. Can you see that the sheen on the mauve icing, you see it's already crusted, it's already drying. Now I'm going to very carefully put this back into the, yes, we want their hearts to melt, not their cookies. You got that right. So that's the reason I did fondant bits, because I know that most of you know I prefer chocolate, but it's way too hot, and it will be way too hot where I am until probably the end of September. I won't be able to go back to using modeling chocolate that's going on cookies that for outdoor events, or cookies that are going to be in a car for a bit. I won't be able to go back to that until later in the year. Now with this, you see I'm being very careful. This icing is barely crusted, and I just wanted to show it to you so you can see that the sheen of the icing is starting to change. But now I have to very carefully get it back in the dehydrator so that me moving it does not cause stress fractures. Do you ever get those itty bitty tiny hairline pieces and you're like, why is my icing cracking up? I didn't do anything. You really did do something. You moved the cookie when it was not crusted enough. And what causes that is the pressure of the weight of that crust on top versus the wet underneath. It's kind of like you had a little earthquake on your cookie. That's the best way I can describe it to you. So if you're too rough with your dehydrator trays, putting them in and out, and you think, oh, I'm safe, I got it to the dehydrator, that's all I needed to do. Well, that's really not everything. You've got to be gentle with it. Just think about it like you are moving. What would you, let's say you have a topped off glass of water and the goal is to get it there without spilling a single drop. So can you see, guys, a large amount of icing shooting towards rather than laying down a flat line? Probably you've noticed in the last couple of cookies as well. Another quick tip for you. I don't tend to go all the way around the cookie, around the cookie, around the cookie. I tend to start in one area because I like, for when my icing is like this, especially, you can see how well it lays down and heals. It's coming right back together so quickly. So I prefer to work a small area, then move on to the next area, because obviously it's a couple seconds wetter here than it is over here versus going all the way around. So that's a tip. It doesn't really matter so much on these little toadstools. They're very small, but on a bigger cookie, that's a tip for you guys. All right. Just give us a little bit here to help that along. Now, if you don't want to put the little nubs on every single one of the mushrooms, you definitely don't have to. Old man's feeling super fragile. You're right. All right. So if you don't have to put these pieces, but I'm telling you, take the time, just make some of these little bits and bobs ahead of time because they add so much to the cookie. Like, yes, that's a little cookie, but look how sweet that is. We've got a gold gilded flower. We've got some diamond dust. We took the time to do that brush embroidery technique to rough up underneath the bottom. Now, probably it's a little bit hard for you to see right now because the lights in my room where I shoot the videos are so bright. But tomorrow, when I photograph these out in natural light and post the pictures, you guys are going to be absolutely amazed at the level of detail that's actually on this cookie. And I promise I will take photos for you before these get heat sealed. So I thought I needed just a little bit more. So I'm adding just a smidge here. You can see the icing is perfect. It's marrying, blending itself into what's right below it. I just thought it needed a little more depth. It wasn't that I didn't have a good line, but when you're looking at it, let me lift this and show you. It just needed to come up a little higher in order to work well with that brush embroidery, okay? You see that? All right, so let's just scoot this one into the dehydrator. We're gonna do two more of these really quickly so all these little toadstools are done. Then I'm going to show you how to do brush embroidery on the Bella Fairy, and that cutter, the Bella Fairy cutter, if someone's on here and can help me out, that's definitely in the specialty section under the Seriously Sweet cookie cutters at Dots and Bows. There are 2 sizes, and the Bella Fairy class is for sale on my webpage, seriouslysweetcupcakes.com. Everything on it's pre-recorded, and the main tutorial is from a live class. Happy to answer any questions if anybody does end up wanting to take that class. In that class, we made Bella Fairy, and she has a super fancy skirt, and her skirt is made out of wafer paper. So we teach you basically how to create feathers to make her skirt. So that's a technique you would learn in that class if you want to take it. Let's see. I'm looking, sorry, at my gold embellishments to see if there's anything over there that I might want to add to this one. And I think probably I don't. All the things that I have over there, they just look a little too Florentine, a little bit too large of flowers to add on to here. And I think probably good to not have some super fancy thing on every single one of these, right? Now, one of the things that I'm going to be doing, I don't want you, hey, bye, Trisha. Thank you. Yes, get signed up for those classes. Yes, yes. What I was going to tell you is I don't want everything to be super fast as we do these videos. So the daytime things that I'm going to live stream for you, they will be a little slower so I can do maybe a little fancier cookies for you, do one cookie beginning to end. I'm trying at night to give you small snack size bits. So when you go back to rewatch these, in case you happen to be having dinner when they go on and things like that, I want you to have smaller bits to go back to. Okay, but each of the techniques is something you can then apply to another cookie. So it's another skill in your cookie arsenal. Can you put gold on? Yeah, this is fondant. The pieces I just put in there, they are fondant transfers. And this is the gold that we painted earlier. Separate video up just a little bit ago. And so you can listen all about that in that video. Let's see. I don't think I've missed any questions. I'm going to pop this one in the dehydrator. But look, you guys, how sweet are these colors? I mean, seriously, these little guys all out together for a party. That's just so sweet. This is avocado and mauve by AmeriColor. Little embellishment added to one, not to the other. We made our little bumps on the mushroom out of, what did I tell you? Royal Icing Transfers. I just used a circular template that's for sale in my coffee shop. So if you've been following us on Coffee, you probably already have that. It's from one of the first things. It's the template that I use to make the center of the daisies so that I can use nonpareils on them, okay? All right, let's do this last one in the mauve. Our fairies will have the light green skirts and the mauve skirts. And we're not going to be doing wafer paper on the little ones. So what I'm going to show you tonight is just how to use the same technique that we did for the underskirting on the toadstools. I'm going to show you how to use that to, let's see. I'm going to show you how to use that to do the wings of our fairy. And that's as much as we'll do in this video tonight so that it doesn't go over an hour, because it'll probably take me about 10 minutes to show you that. So that way, if you want to see the fairy, you can pop back on and just watch that section of the video, okay? Now, if I wasn't still doing my store and everything, I would go back and start putting timestamps in the videos for you in the description so you could see where each cookie starts and stops. But for now, you'll just have to use the fast forward. I'll just put it this way. I have a lot of goals to accomplish between now and the end of the year, okay? So let's put, how about we just put one on this so they don't all look the same? How about we just do that one little detail on there for this one? All right, let's get that one in the dehydrator. We'll let this run for just a couple minutes. We're going to move on and do the fairy wings really quickly. We're going to be using a brush embroidery technique. You could also sculpt these. You could also, actually, let me do that. While I'm with you, let me show you 2 ways to do this. Got to go be a dad. You're welcome, Jeremy. It was good to see you tonight. Tell the kids hello. Tell Mo hello. I can't tell if there's a lot of comments over there. So if I've missed any questions, assume I haven't seen it and pop it back in there for me. So this is my basic fairy cookie, okay? If this were my cookie, let me show you how I sketch on a cookie because I like to mark them all ahead of time. Again, I'm using an edible black ink marker tonight. And I'm going to use this end to sketch with, but if I were doing this for a customer's order, I'd be doing this in yellow, so there's less chance the black is going to show through. But I have the layout of my cookie, and this is my personal design. I made this design, and then Katrina and Carrie at Dots and Bows recreated it in a cutter for me. The last icing I was using was about, I would say 16 to 18. It was outline and flood consistency, Cynthia. Consistency, Cynthia. Sorry about that. So I know what the design is supposed to be in my head, but if you're looking at a picture, which is on the website, and then coming to this, then you're going to find where the wings stop, where the arms are going to be, and then you're going to mark this little section here that the wings are going to go up. So that's a natural first breaking point for me. I know where I want that to be. Then I know that this is the bun. This center section, I'd laid that out to be the bun of her head. And then I have a icing tip, a cake icing tip, a Russian piping tip that I decided was the proper size for her face. So then the next thing I want to mark is, let's get this right, right underneath. So I know this is supposed to be the bun on the top of her head for her hair because she's a fairy and I wanted to give her a cute curly hairdo. So I'm just going to mark this. You can use any round object that you have. Just make sure, obviously, that it hasn't been on something disgusting and then you put it on a cookie. This is a sanitized piping tip that I brought home specifically to do this. So now I've marked that. Then the next thing I want to do, I know I want her hair, it's going to be 2 sections. So we're going to be just finding, we come down about a little bit lower than halfway down. And this is something you'll have to look at a tutorial on faces. Carmen Urbano taught a class last year in Cook Years Live with April Kalanchik from Sweet and Saucy Life. So I got to take her class and she's very, very, very good about how to break down a face, where the ears go, the eyes go, different markings. So once you get that down, just a couple of basic tips, you will love that. It'll make it a lot easier. It'll make a lot more sense. But I have already sketched this on paper before I even had the cookie cutter done. So I know that I want her to have a little hairdo. You don't have to get super particular about this. So I'm going to do that section. Then we're going to put another section over the top. That's going to give the second section a little lift there. Okay. So we know the wings are going to be this area. We know that's hairdo. That's going to be face. Now, the next easiest thing to know is that we're going to put down, using pressure piping, we're going to put some little legs right here. We know that we want arms. Look, this can be very hard because there's shoulders and neck involved. So I always start from the furthest away coming up rather than the neck going down. Just makes it easier for me. So I've got her arms roughly marked. Now I want to come up here to her head because I want some naked cookies showing between her arm and where her waist is going to be. But first we have to do her neck. So we know that her neck should just be about 1/4 inch of that circle, right? Her wings are going to come in the back. And we know we want her to have a little shoulder there. So that's how we would make the find the final area. Give her a little bit of shoulder, arms hanging down, right? Perfect. And we know we were going to want our waist to be right about here. And I know that I want some naked cookie between her waist and where her arm's going to be. And her arm is probably going to come over like this, right? So I just want to make a little mark here and a little mark here just for frame of reference. I don't need to sketch every pleat of her skirt. I am going to make a lot of pleats in her skirt, which you can see tomorrow. But this is just roughly how we would sketch her out. So I did that earlier on some cookies. I'm going to pull one over here for you. So let's go to this one. I'm going to start with my toothpaste consistency icing, which in this case is 35 second icing. Let me come back up here. I'm going to start with what is the furthest away, because then as I build, Elisa, yes, it's recorded. You can watch it later. It's going to be on my Seriously Sweet on Davis Street Facebook page. It's in the new group, Cookie Snack Attack Facebook page. It's in there, which is a Cookiers group. And then it's also on our YouTube channel. So you'll be able to watch it whenever you want, fast forward, rewind, whatever you need to do. Please feel free, if you do this later, to send me questions. Okay, so the other reason I don't like to use a lot of black icing is what you're going to see in just a minute when we start doing, not black icing, I'm so sorry. The reason I don't sketch on the cookies when I'm doing brush embroidery specifically, unless it's a bee cookie, and then that creates a whole nother effect, but that's an animal for a different day. Tonight, we're talking about this little fairy, and we want to keep it as clean as possible. So the reason I don't like to do the black is because this is going to cause this marker to come off once a little bit of water hits it. So it's going to be really important that you control the water in your brush. So I'm going to start here at her head, and I'm just going to put a nice big thick line. You play with this and do what's easier for you, but I've done a lot of these fairy cookies over the last 6 months. I do them all a little bit different so nobody gets the same thing. But what I've found is easier is that nice big single pressure piping across that outside edge. Then I do a little bit thinner one, and I'm working from the back to the front because I'm going to layer these, okay? Also, I don't want to forget that I want to put diamond dust because obviously fairy wings should shimmer. So here's my brush. It's the round tip Wilton stiff bristle. I'm going to wet it in some water off to the side. I have a little, let me just show you. I don't soak this thing down. I dip it and then I blot it. You see how I'm just rolling it so it's damp. It's not wet. I'm not going to be adding a lot of water to the cookie. Then I start at the furthest point. I stay just inside where that icing barrier line is, and I just start working it in. Now, if I wanted to work with a little bit thicker consistency, I could actually sculpt this using fondant tools. And you could sculpt it. There's a lovely young lady that's on Instagram that does a lot of fondant sculpting. I'm very sorry, I can't think of her name. Maybe it's Painted Lady. I'm not sure. If any of you know, you can drop a link in. But she does very good work, and she does a lot of sculpting. And I also really like to watch Timbo Sullivan do sculpting work. I got to take I think I've taken 2 classes from him so far, loved both of them, because the reason I like to take those classes is because even though he's working in fondant, I know I can take those skills and then I can use it with like royal icing putty. I can use it in a situation like this. It ups my level when I'm designing a cookie because I really enjoy multimedia cookies. That's kind of a thing for me. I love it. I love to work in as many things as possible. And I love to try to balance that with getting a lot of detail on the cookie for the customers. So guys, can you see what's happening here? So I'm just making sure I pull enough of this. When I am pulling the tip through here, I'm just making it like almost like a razor point, see? Even though it's the round tip. So when I need that extra little detail, just get a couple more lines, I can go right in there and pull this. But do you see what's happening, how the icing is crossing that black line? So watch what happens. I need to clean that up. And I don't want to clean it up by scraping with the boo-boo stick and possibly loosening some of the cookie because I don't want to create crumbs. So I'm going to use this brush and I'm just going to come right around my circle from 2 sides. I'm going to come in from that side and get a nice edge. And I'm going to come back at it from this side. But do you see, as soon as that brush, can you see that little bit, what it causes to happen because I use the black marker? Can you see that, how it has just that little tiny smear? You have to be so careful. So let's hit that real quick with some diamond dust here, edible diamond dust, edible glitter. Now I did that as one wing. Oops, that's flood icing, not outline ice, not not the 30 to 35-second icing. Yes, I think that's it, Bobby. Thank you for dropping that in. I would recommend you check that out. She has a lot of really fast. Yeah, it's not finished without the glitter for sure, Jennifer. But check out Painted Lady. It's Painted Lady something. You have to go find it. It's wonderful. So let's start again on this side. Really thick pressure line. Now, remember, we left that open because that's going to be the bun on the top of her hairdo, which you'll have to trust me and just see tomorrow. And I have more icing on the upper than the lower. That's because I want to primarily, wetting the brush off to the side, pulling it through, I primarily want my pieces of my wing to look like they're coming from the top down. Okay? And then that icing, I'm just putting it into a paper towel. I'm just rolling it on there. Damp brush, not wet. I'm not reintroducing water. Too much water reintroduced to the icing when it's at this consistency will just make it all, it'll just look like it melted together. Now, it's a good technique to learn, like how much it would take to make this remelt together in case your icing is a little too crusted and you don't like your design and you want to play with it. But it's not what you want to do when you're doing something like this where you want to look like you have all these cells. By the way, this same thing that I'm doing right here for this wing, we're going to be doing in a couple of weeks with fruit. We're going to be doing it with lemons and oranges and limes because, of course, you're going to need some of those cool cookies before your summer picnics. So I'll be working that in, and I have a great set of templates of lemon, lime, and oranges. royal icing transfer templates that are going to be going in the coffee shop next week. In fact, I actually think I'm going to teach you how to do the fruit next week. So now we have another wing. All right, and this is how we would continue. So I've shown you how to sketch the cookies, so you can just keep marks in mind as you're going. You can do that with a projector too if you want to, not really necessary. Now, no, if you're laughing at home, just drop me some laughing, smiling faces over here on the right-hand side. Drop me some funnies in here when you see what I'm about to show you. So this cookie, I did these wings in the back. I did these two wings in the back as one set of wings. And then I put this middle set over. So the set by her head is the highest. But then this is her breast augmentation. This is for the little fairy so that when I put her bodice on, she has a little lift there. So she has a little 3D. Okay. I did not want her to be one-dimensional. That's all I'm going to say about that. So now y'all make all your little comments over on the side. Have a good time with it. So what's going to happen, I don't want to do it right now though, because the wings are still too wet. So I'll have to demonstrate on one tomorrow for you. But what's going to be happening is I'm going to come right over the top and let the icing come over that in the pink. I'm going to come down to this area. I'm going to do just that little section. Then I'm going to put some beautiful pink sanding sugar on this. Okay. Okay, come back and see it later. We would love to have you finish it up, and I'll be showing you some more probably tomorrow after I get out of church, okay? But so I'll do just that little tiny section because then I'm going to use this really pretty sanding sugar so it has a little glint. And then what I'll be doing is I'm going to come in and I'm going to layer her skirt. And we're going to do her skirt in the mauve or the green or mauve and green. I'm going to blend it up. Once that, and the only thing I'm going to do before I do that is once I decide what flesh tone I'm going to use for this particular one, I'll lay down a whole circle of flesh tone up here because we're going to want it to dry so that the hair is lifted. Okay. So I'll do a whole flesh tone there, and then I'm going to run a bead for the arms, a bead for the arm here, and then I'll run the legs in because I need that to crust up. They're small areas. They're going to have to go into the dehydrator for just a minute or two. And then over top of that, I want to put the skirt. So the order will be to do this little chest area. Then we're going to do the legs. Then we're going to do her, we're going to do the chest area. We're going to flood this whole circle for the face, right? And the reason we're doing the whole circle is because we want the hair to be lifted. We want it to be a little higher than her face. We're going to do, when we do the flesh tone for this, we're going to do the legs. Then it's got to go through the dehydrator, okay? Once it comes out of the dehydrator, we're going to layer up the separate sections on her skirt. Once the skirt is in place, the very last thing we're going to do is we'll come back and we'll do one, well, not the very last. We need to do one section of her hair. Once that section is crusted, we'll do the bun in this section. Okay, we'll do that as one piece. Then what we'll do is the last section on the body is we're going to do her arms and her neck and her arm coming down so that that's one piece. But we have to do that after everything else is dry so that it doesn't all run together. Okay. When we get back to the face, we're just going to draw on this really sweet little demure face, a little dot nose, two little eyes, some eyelashes, and just a little kind of grin. I think she's going to be a grinning fairy. We'll do a little grin for our little fairies, okay? So that's what we're going to work on. The other thing we're going to be adding, I have decided around her waist area, we'll be cutting off whichever pieces we want, and we'll be using these pieces that we made to make her waistline, and then we'll be using some of these up in her hair. Not quite sure how we're going to put it in there yet, but we've got a lot of options because I made these little bits going all different directions. Now look, honestly, these are gorgeous. They turned out much more detailed and so pretty once the TMP was on. If you wanted to use the mold that these were in, you could create your wings from these bits. Let me show you what that would look like on one of these that's dry. You would just place these overlapping each other down the side. Can you see how pretty that would be? Because it just looks like hundreds of little feathers. It's gorgeous, right? So this is an example of a multimedia cookie where we're combining a technique called brush embroidery. We're going to be doing a lift section here. We've got some fondant bits going on with some metallic, all of these things done ahead of time, this done ahead of time. Then we're going to also be using a food safe pin to do the face. So you have a lot going on, but you can do a lot of it ahead of time. So it's taking a good bit more time right now because we're chatting about everything, okay? But if I were sitting here doing these, I'd be knocking out 12 cookies. All the wings would be done, diamond dust on, run them through the dehydrator out. I'd do the next step, and that's how I keep it moving really fast. But if you want to sit down and just cookie for fun, I want you to do that too and take your time. I don't want you to feel rushed. That's why I just want you to make sure you go back. We'll keep all these videos recorded for you. That way you can stop when you want to, walk away if you want to, come back to it the next day if you want to, whatever you want. But I hope you enjoyed just this little bit of fun tonight with the fairies and the toadstools. And maybe tomorrow after church, I will show you some finished fairies and talk to you about what I did. But then I might show you a couple of tea sets. I'm doing a few things tomorrow. I have a design I want to play with. So you might get to see that tomorrow night after I get done with church, okay? So I will see you guys soon. Thank you for tuning in. Please make sure, let me put this back up real quick for you. Please make sure that you sign up for the text alerts. I can go up to 500 people for the same servicing fee every month. So sign up, sign up, sign up. It's fabulous. I don't only send these to you if I'm going live. So it's not like I'm going to send you any kind of solicitation text. If you don't like getting the text, you definitely can opt out at any time. The text message tells you how to do that. If you need to turn it off while you're on vacation or out of the country, whatever, if you know you're not going to use it, then you can opt back in by just typing whatever the message tells you to. So it's very easy to get in and out of the group. It's all automated. I don't actually mess with any of that. So 540-870-0726, type the word live stream. It'll automatically put you in our group. What else did I want to tell you? Oh, Jennifer has dropped the links in the comment section. So I'm guessing they're going to be in both the Cookie Snack Attack with Seriously Sweet Facebook page. And join that group. She dropped the group in for you. It's for cookiers or people that like to watch cookie videos, people that like to eat cookies, whatever, anything cookie related goes there. Keep it super positive. We are currently at 335. We're going to have another drawing at 400. Jen has dropped it in all three places. So that means you can also rewatch this video from the Seriously Sweet main Facebook page. I really appreciate you guys spending time with me tonight. And thank you, so many of you, for showing up. I hope by next week I will have a better live streaming schedule for you. So you'll know there's going to be 2 times a week. There are going to be definite days and times. I'm just trying to work that out with some other things that are going on at the store rescheduling. And then there are going to be just times when I'm working on something like this. I want to pop on and just show you something while I happen to have it handy. So there'll be times I'm getting on that there's not going to be anything in the coffee shop specifically to go along with this. So if you want to support me, you certainly can go to the coffee shop at any time and just buy me a sweet tea. It helps me keep live streaming and improve my equipment. But there will also be tutorials, at least 1, possibly 2 a week, where there's going to be things in there that you'll want to purchase, like the Royal Icing Transfer template, sketches, things like that. So I am going to pop off of here. Thanks so much for spending time with me tonight. Make sure you join the group, help each other get in there, and let's become better cookiers together. All right, cupcake out. Have a great night.